São Tomé, botei stand de nós.
Departing the Congo, we sailed to the small twin island nation of São Tomé and Príncipe in the Gulf of Guinea. São Tomé sits on the equator. When we crossed the equator, we honored the maritime initiation rite known as crossing the line, that commemorates a sailor's first crossing of the equator. Our first stop in the country was off the island of São Tomé, with its eponymously named capital city of São Tomé. The islands of São Tomé and Príncipe were uninhabited before the arrival of the Portuguese around 1470. In order to grow sugar on extensive plantations, slaves were brought over from continental Africa from what was then the Kingdom of Congo, and today are the countries of Angola and the Congo. After the collapse of the Portuguese overseas territories, the islands gained independence in 1975. We anchored off Forte de São Sebastião, which was first built in 1575. Post-independence, the Fort of San Sebastian was repurposed as the National Museum of São Tomé and Príncipe. From our anchorage in Ana Chaves Bay, we ferried ashore to São Tomé in Zodiacs, which afforded us a good view of Forte de São Sebastião. The city of São Tomé was founded by the Portuguese in 1493, just a year after the discovery of the New World by Christopher Columbus. São Tomé is the capital city of São Tomé and Príncipe, and it is by far the largest city in the nation, with a population of some 57,000. Since it is located on the equator, the mean temperature is about 30 degrees Celsius year-round. Once ashore in the harbor, we made the short drive downtown. The presidential palace of São Tomé and Príncipe was, prior to independence in 1975, the official home of the Portuguese governor of the province of São Tomé and Príncipe. The palace, guarded by a couple of nonchalant soldiers, is not supposed to be photographed on pain of arrest because the opulence of the palace reflects badly on the president of such a poor country. The Cathedral of Our Lady of Grace opposite the palace dates back to the 15th century and was completed in 1958. There is a beautiful porcelain mural over the main altar. From São Tomé, we drove south along the east coast. The road is narrow, but the views along the coastline are beautiful, and the scenes of people leading their daily lives fascinating. At most rivers or streams near a village, the village women were down doing their laundry. At the time of independence in 1975, Portuguese-owned plantations occupied 90% of the cultivated area. Post-independence, the plantations were nationalized and the land redistributed, which resulted in a significant decrease in cocoa production. Our first stop was at the Roça Agua-Izé cocoa plantation, where in 1822 the Portuguese Baron of Agua-Izé planted the first cocoa trees that were brought over from Brazil. In time, cocoa production became the country's main agricultural product and its chief export. The ripened pods are removed from the cocoa trees and opened to extract the wet beans. The wet beans are hand sorted to remove bad beans. The beans undergo a fermentation process by piling them together in a box and allowing microorganisms to develop and initiate fermentation of the pulp surrounding the beans. Cocoa beans are dried after fermentation in order to reduce the moisture content from about 60 to 8%.
You ready?
Yep. Do it again.
The dried beans are bagged for export to chocolate manufacturers overseas. Some of the beans are made into chocolate on the island, but most are shipped to Europe for manufacturing. An older employee was as proud as punch to show off the Roça's old German-made train, which once served the plantation, but has been idle now for years. In colonial times, the Roça or plantation engaged some 2,500 Angolans and 50 European employees. To keep this workforce productive, a large and wonderfully architected hospital was built. However, following independence, the hospital was abandoned and has fallen into disrepair. Poor families now live in the decaying building, with its magnificent ocean views from the top floor. On the coast near the Roça is Boca do Inferno, or the mouth of hell. This is a narrow passage that funnels waves under a bridge of basaltic stones and comes out roaring and spraying. São João dos Angolares is a small town of some 2,200 people. As the name Angolares infers, most of the residents are descendants of slaves originating in Angola. Fishing and the ocean is the heart of the town, so there was a flow of people coming up from the beach carrying fish in baskets. Down at the beach there was lots of action, ranging from children playing in the surf to fishing by both children and their parents. The fisherman, carrying back his large dolphin fish catch on his head, stood out amongst the people on the beach. The town's children learn at an early age how to fish and thereby contribute to their families. From the town up on the hillside we could see the plantation Roça Agua-Izé Angolares, where we'd have our lunch. There is a narrow vehicle track up to the Verdant Roça. The plantation's main building is now a pousada, or an inn, along with a restaurant. The main building was built in the Portuguese colonial era, when this was an extensive plantation with a large labor force. Since independence, like most of the Roças, a lot of the land formerly cultivated has become overgrown, and the land is now overflowing with plants and fruiting trees, which makes walking around very interesting. Apart from fruits and other crops, the Roça's workers raise animals including cattle and various types of fowl. They live in workers' housing, built when the plantation was a large operation. The Roça's land under cultivation is much reduced from the colonial times, so at least half of the workers' quarters have been abandoned and are now in an advanced state of decay. The Roça's main building has impressively high ceilings, yet it has a cozy, inviting feeling, with paintings and sculptures by local artists everywhere. The restaurant is located on a large veranda with a stupendous view overlooking the Bay of Santa Cruz, with the town of São João dos Angolares nestled into its side. The restaurant has a chef, Carlos Silva, who for the past 20 years has been a man on a mission to transform the former slave hub of São Tomé into a hub for culture. After lunch, we were treated to some local musical entertainment and dancing. Leaving the Roça, we headed back north along the coast towards São Tomé. Just south of São Tomé, we stopped at Pantufo to watch the day's end for fishermen as they dragged their small boats up the beach. At Pantufo, we visited the Igreja de São Pedro to watch an intriguing high-energy performance of the Danço Congo. As the name implies, the dance and rhythm reflect the origin of the Angolares slaves in the historic kingdom of Congo. The dance culminates with a struggle with the devil incarnate. We arrived back in São Tomé just in time for sunset, which turned out to be quite impressive as it progressed. In the afterglow of the beautiful sunset, we headed back to the ship by Zodiac. Moving north from the equator, we sailed 190 kilometers from São Tomé to Bom Bom Island off the northern tip of Príncipe Island, where we dropped anchor. Príncipe, at 136 square kilometers, is the smaller island of the country of São Tomé and Príncipe. The population is approximately 5,000. The island of Príncipe became famous in the history of physics when in 1919 Sir Arthur Eddington led a scientific expedition to observe a solar eclipse and make measurements of the bending of starlight that would confirm predictions made by Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity. There were fishermen off Bom Bom Island, some of whom came alongside our ship to sell their catch. We headed ashore in Zodiacs to the Bom Bom Resort, where we had a friendly reception. Bom Bom Island is connected to Príncipe Island by a long wooden bridge which makes for a wonderful walk over the water. The resort has several beautiful beaches that were far from crowded.
Oh yeah, there he is. Got something in his mouth, isn't it? No, I guess maybe not.
Western reef herons with their colorful bright yellow feet patrolled the shoreline, looking for fish while ignoring the crabs.
There he goes, he's coming your way.
The Bom Bom Resort beaches were very nice, with the odd tropical fish swimming about. Leaving the beach, we were off to Santo Antonio, a small city of some 1,200 people. It was a very delightful walk through a tropical forest to Santo Antonio. The sounds of birds echoed through the forest.
He's on the berries there. He's eating the berries? Or at least he's looking at them anyway.
Along the track we encountered a number of families out gathering the bounty of the forest, ranging from bananas to trees. The island was uninhabited when discovered by the Portuguese and named Príncipe, or Prince's Island. Parts of the island were made into plantations using slave labor. Eventually, Príncipe became the world's greatest cocoa producer. However, since independence, these plantations have largely reverted to forest. The village children were curious to see the foreigners in their midst. We arrived at the Príncipe Airport, the only airport on the island. Apart from the small terminal building, there is an old twin-engine airplane on a static mount. However, the main point of interest is the wonderful view across the airstrip towards the prominent central peaks, including the needle-like Pico Cao Grande. Another 3 kilometers put us in Santo Antonio, which with its population of some 1,200 is the main settlement of Príncipe Island. It sits on the eponymously named Baía de Santo Antonio. The buildings surrounding the city's plaza are mainly colonial-era ones, including the Assembleia Legislativa Regional, which occupies a former church building. Since Santo Antonio was the colonial capital of Portuguese São Tomé and Príncipe for about 100 years until 1852, it has many beautiful old Portuguese colonial buildings. We were able to attend the Mass at the lovely Our Lady of Conception Church and then see the baptism that followed. Lining the church's balcony are carved panels illustrating the life of Jesus. Leaving Santo Antonio, we returned to the Bom Bom Resort and took a Zodiac back to our ship. Leaving the enchanting island nation of São Tomé and Príncipe, we sailed across the Gulf of Guinea towards the area once called the Slave Coast, as we continued our great voyage up the coast of West Africa.
Take me somewhere nice, to some tired island in your heart called